Hi everyone, you're watching Mom Knows Feeling Right, and I'm Simran called Arora. Today's topic is a very sensitive one, but something that we definitely must address. It's about marital conflict and divorces, and their impact on young children who are part of this marriage. Well, the best spokesperson for discussing this topic is a psychologist who has a specialization in marriage counseling. So we have with us today Rashi Laskri.
Hi everyone, my name is Rashi Laskri. I am a counseling psychologist specializing in the field of individual and marriage and family therapy.
So Rashi, thank you so much for being with us today. Our first question is that when we talk about marriage and we talk about conflict and then we lead to separation, especially when there are children involved, a lot of our parents and people who really, really care for us suggest that we should put off the decision of separation, especially because the child may be really young. Is there something like a considerable age, or should age even be a factor that we need to think of before we're considering a separation as a couple?
If as a couple or as a family you have decided to go ahead with a divorce, then there wouldn't be a specific age that we can describe as the right or the safe age period for a child. So when kids are younger, it may be easier from that perspective, but as kids grow older, it is important for parents to gauge themselves or even seek the guidance of a professional counselor with whom they can discuss their observations of the phase of the child's life and how the child is coping with his life as an individual. If the child needs time, if he's going through something important in his own life, then it makes sense to wait until you're past that event. But otherwise, it's important to prepare the child for it, prepare yourself for it. How you take the divorce, how maturely you handle the divorce is how your child is going to take to it, and that's what's more important.
Strangely, we've noticed a lot of couples actually go through this transition from becoming just couples to parents, and that's when a lot of differences arise. More often than not, we notice that people do want separation or to go different ways, especially in the period after the childbirth or in the first 3 years after the childbirth. So Rashi, what really changes, from being couples to being parents?
When you're just a couple, it's easier because you're only thinking of your needs, your partner's needs, some other logistic arrangements, some other responsibilities. But when you have a child involved, then you have to kind of put the child's needs as priority, because you are, as an adult, taking an informed decision. The child and his mind is receiving things from a very different perspective. Children, until they reach their teenage, are very self-centered in their way of thinking, and often they tend to believe that things that are happening around them are either happening because of them or are happening for them or towards them. So because their perception is very self-centered, so it is important that if you have a child and if you're considering divorce, the first point should be to consider the child's emotions, to consider the child's needs.
For a lot of children whose parents are going through divorce, we often hear that they are being counseled. Is counseling a good thing for kids? Wouldn't they specifically feel that something is off with their life and in fact completely derail them from their usual behavior? Should external help be taken at all times?
Actually, no. It's not necessary that every child whose parents are going through divorce has to seek counseling. In fact, I feel sometimes it's better to not over discuss or over complicate the concept of divorce. So I feel that as parents, it's important to go slow, talk about it to your children, ask them to share their emotions, let them feel safe, and constantly remind themselves that both parents are always available for them. That even if the divorce or separation is happening, they still have both parents and they still have the unconditional love of both parents.
Okay, this is a question that I'm not really sure you'll be able to answer, but it's very pertinent. Is there a go-to point or a code of conduct or a guiding principle as to how parents should approach a separation or a divorce, especially when there are kids involved, so that it has the least negative impact on them?
Having said that, there is resource material out there. There are some significant books that parents can read that help them get guidelines on how to talk to their children. And I feel like before a parent considers taking child in for therapy, it might make sense for the couple or the parents to go in for a counseling session themselves, because how that would help is that any queries, any doubts that they have in their mind about how to approach it, any observations that they may have in their mind about how their child is responding or not responding, social context. Sometimes there are parents or other people in the family who may talk differently to the child about the divorce. So there are many such elements that a parent needs to, or both parents actually need to discuss in therapy or in confidence with a professional.
Post separation, what are some of the things that we need to definitely not do in front of our children so that they again don't get too affected by this new environment and this change setting where the couples are not living together or are not, they're not having their parents together?
As parents, Simran, I feel like it is important to consider the best interest of the child. And wasn't that the actual reason why, as a couple, you decided to go ahead and take a divorce? It was that you wanted to come out of an unhappy marriage or an unhappy household and move towards happiness or move away from this unhappiness. So for the child also, it is much better to have two happy homes rather than be in one unhappy home. Having said that, then it becomes the parents' responsibility to provide the child with that environment, right? That respective lives that the parents are living. To answer your second question, what are some specific changes? Yes, sometimes there are specific changes that we see in children that, when they respond to a divorce in other ways, which could be very specific behavior changes. So they could suddenly become an introvert, or there would be changes in their behavior at school. So at home, they're okay because they're seeing parents go through their own struggle. But when they go to school, sometimes there's newfound aggression, or there's like a complete going into their shell. So when these kind of things come up, or there is a sudden change in their diet or sleep routine, or also a loss of interest in things that they would otherwise find interesting.
As part of the society, one of the most basic questions, or I wish we had been trained on how to behave in front of a child.
There are kids in your child's age group or in their friend circle whose parents may have either separated or have gone through divorce. So these things are becoming common for our children to also notice, or for us to also go through. The one comfort that we can provide them is by not making them feel that their situation is any odd or any particularly different from that of your child's, to ensure that they don't feel that they're coming from a broken family, or that there is something wrong with their behavior, or that they are at fault, or that they need to be treated any differently because of the divorce of their parents. So, to conclude our discussion today, divorce is often perceived as a failure. And as a matter of fact, it's not, because it takes a lot of strength for a person to take that decision for themselves and also as a couple. So it is rarely ever the easy way out to take a divorce, especially when the decisions that you make for yourself, the impact of those decisions is not just going to be on your future life, but is also going to impact the life of children.
Well, that advice is well taken. And guys, please remember not to actually go out and make the person or make the child feel that something is off in his life. In fact, try and be as casual as possible. Well, if you do find this topic pertinent, or even if you don't, make sure you share this video, because it's of prime importance to understand how to behave around people who might have gone through a divorce or maybe considering a separation, and especially how to be around children whose parents are considering divorce. We would love to hear from you, so please put in your comments, and do remember to like, share and subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification button to get important advice from our experts.